on the webOS. In HP, webOS is including the other platform or the webOS independent, which is your strategy.
So let me just make sure I understand the question. So you're asking about what the strategy is for webOS across all the devices that we're going to make it available on.
Right.
So, as we've announced, webOS will be available on obviously the touchpad and the phones, but we will also make webOS available on PCs and laptops and printers. So a lot of people get confused. PCs and laptops for us does not mean webOS as the only operating system. It's webOS running with Windows 7, so literally webOS enhancing Windows 7 to allow your PC and laptop to be included in your family of devices. So things like Synergy. So when you buy an app, you download an application and you put it on your phone, it automatically gets installed on your pad. If you're running webOS on your PC, that app is immediately available on your PC. Anything you do across any of the devices, automatically Synergy makes sure that you have that same experience across all the devices. So that's the strategy. With that, keep in mind that that means we'll ship 70 million PCs, we'll ship 70 million printers, that's 140 million devices, plus what we do on the pad and what we do on the phones. So just with that footprint alone puts us into the largest number of devices running a mobile platform literally overnight. And so the strategy being is by increasing and creating such a large footprint, use that as one of many attractors to bring the ecosystem of application developers onto that device. Because now you write an application, you're able to run that application across that entire footprint.
So it won't be, won't compete
Sorry,
with
we'll-
Windows 7?
Hold on, I want to get a
Hang on.
microphone so
Yeah.
that you make sure everybody hears the question.
So it won't compete with Windows 7, but
No.
will be a layer or an add-on on top
It'll
of
be
it.
an enhancement to Windows 7, so it's not, there was some press and some headlines about, quote, HP fires Microsoft. No, that's not the case. This is Windows 7 with with webOS enhancing the Windows 7. I mean, look, we're Microsoft's largest customer in the world. We ship more PCs with Windows on it than any other platform. If you look at it as a percentage of our revenue, it's 99% of our revenue comes from PCs running Windows 7. We do a little bit of open source here and there, but it's primarily a Windows ecosystem out there. And nothing that we're doing in the webOS strategy changes that. It'll still be Windows 7, but here's an opportunity to take your Windows 7 platform and bring it into a family of devices experience, rather than PCs over there, your phone, tablets are over there. Really being able to use that to bring it together. And we think we're uniquely positioned to do that.
Do you have a plan to adopt webOS to
Sorry.
business market?
Yes.
And are you willing to license to third party?
So, one, yes, we're going to do it to the business market. And it's actually one of the feature sets that we are heavily focused on. If you follow the feature sets for webOS, one of the key feature sets that you saw in webOS 2.0 that we just began shipping is step up in VPN, security, all the things that are important to the enterprise market. Today, about 250 enterprise accounts have approved webOS as an enterprise platform. But we have visions of wanting to turn that into the most business-friendly webOS phone. What we mean by business-friendly is it satisfies the needs and the requirements of the enterprise, managing it, securing the data, all the things that are important to them. With an important caveat, we want to maintain it to be the best consumer experience on the same device. So we all know devices today that are really good enterprise, but then they're not as extensible or they have other challenges. You got consumer devices, not very friendly to the enterprise, and the IT departments don't like it. Our objective with webOS is to maintain the best consumer experience and be the most business friendly. It's a tough balance. Put everything in place that the enterprises want to secure it, but not allow that to overtake or impact that consumer experience, which is so important. Second part of your question is will we license webOS to third parties? To date, the answer is no. So Palm has always had the strategy of not licensing webOS. We are not licensing it. Our focus today is enhancing and extending webOS for the new platforms, the new phones, the touchpad, the webOS on PCs, webOS on laptops, and webOS on printers. And that is keeping us very busy on just the enhancements and the extensions that we're doing for webOS. So for 2011, 2012, well, that's our strategy.
Next question.
I'm very interested you were talking about partner experience. You talk about 2013 we have a smart house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know that specifically how about what kind of the solution HP will provide us the smart house and the 2016 sensor network developers.
Well, one is I'm not going to announce a product this far in advance of that time frame. What I will tell you, though, is about some of the research we're doing. So there was a project out of HP Labs along with my innovation team called Project Phoenix. This was basically around instrumenting a house, primarily for energy management. So we literally created these dongle devices that would go into the power outlets. So we could actually measure the real draw of every piece of electronics in a house. And we ended up instrumenting, I don't know, a dozen or so houses. And they were all HP employees. So it was all HP employees, dispatching this. It was a cloud service. We captured all that information from all the sensors in the home, put it up to the cloud, and then present it back to the employee. And it was quite interesting when you looked at what rooms of the house during what time of day, and we were basically metering it every minute. So every 60 seconds, we were pulsing and taking the readings. And it was interesting, you would see these weird patterns emerge. And then when you talk to the employee, they go, oh yeah, on Friday night we always do this, or Sunday we always do that. And you could literally use this map and you could discern what people do day to day of their lives. When is the TV on versus when the washer or dryer is on, those types of things. And what it revealed to us is, albeit we said it was energy management, those sensors, because it measured what you did in the house, whether watching TV, opening the refrigerator, washing clothes, it actually gave you a lot of information about people's day-to-day lives, not just power utilization that you did from turning on your washer. And so we've been doing a bunch of research that says if I over-sensor the house, are there other interesting things that we can do? For example, we actually have a sensor that's come out of HP Labs. We have a nanotechnology team. Dr. Stan Williams runs the nano team. I mean, these guys are just absolutely brilliant. They came out with a sensor called Richter. It's a seismic sensor. We actually do it, we've done work with Shell Oil to take these seismic sensors, and you literally scatter them on the ground, and when they do thump testing to look at where oil and gas is under the ground, it's proven to be the most accurate seismic sensor ever seen. I can take a Richter sensor and I can put it on the kitchen counter at my house, and I can tell when a car pulls onto my driveway. That's how sensitive it is. With the Richter sensor, I can tell what floor someone is walking around on the upstairs. I can literally track everything that goes on in the house because this is so sensitive. So when you think about those kinds of sensors, what can you do with it? A lot of things that we've never even thought of, right? Because when you think about, who was the first person to put a digital compass and a GPS into a phone, so I could literally use the phone as a pointing device, right? So our view is that we're interested in sensors, not only in the home, but sensors in devices, and then opening it up and creating a platform to allow the application developers to go innovate. We're not going to come up with the overall solutions. Our view is that we want to create the best platforms to allow the real innovators, the people who are out there really trying to solve the real problems, the application developers, to be able to get access to these kinds of technologies and then go create something that becomes really interesting and really exciting. So for us, the smart house is Today, we do this energy management. We're doing a little bit of work in healthcare. So sensors to allow for you to connect your blood glucose meter if you're a diabetic and be able to send that information automatically to your doctor. To home security, the home automation, all the stuff that we know about, but also energy management, but also a wide range of these kinds of temperature sensors. If you think about putting temperature sensors on every device that you have in your house, you can actually get much better at knowing hot spots and cold spots in the house, more evenly cool and heat the house, reducing the total energy. But you need information in order to tell the heating and air conditioning, put heat here, don't put it here, how do you manage that? So we think that sensors, and putting more sensors in and just exposing that information is going to open up a whole new set of applications that we've just never thought of.
Sorry, this might sound like a bit inappropriate, but I'm just wondering, have big brands like HP and others have already established that the form factor that we see on most tablets now is the de facto form factor, or you think there is some, I'm sure there's some scope of improvement?
No, I mean, what we've seen in our research, and keep in mind, we started our tablet slate research 5 years ago, right? So, you know, we built up 60 prototype devices, we put it in people's hands, we actually watched people do it both in work environments and home environments, and what you find is there's a variety of different sizes that are interesting. So kind of that 9.5-inch size, really an interesting size. Works really good for video, very good for reading kind of a context. Other sizes that are proven to be pretty interesting is kind of in that 7-inch size, particularly for business customers, particularly healthcare. The reason being is a 7-inch one, doctor can fit it in the lab coat. So part of the challenge with healthcare, bedside healthcare, is that they need both hands free to do something with the patient. So they need to take whatever technology they've got, they've either got to set it on the bed, they got to put it someplace. For them, it's about portability. And 7 inches is kind of in a unique size, highly portable, but yet big enough to where you can actually do something with the screen in a mobile operating system, kind of a perspective. So my belief is that there's going to be a wide range of device form factors that are going to emerge. In fact, it's probably going to get much more confusing over the next couple of years than not, because people are going to be experimenting to see which size, combination of size, aspect ratios. Is it a 16 by 9, 7 inch? Is it a 5 by 3? You know, so whatever that orientation is, screen size, battery life, thickness, connectivity options. We're very, very early in what the tablet and pad market's going to look like, you know, some years from now. And so from that context, needing to make sure, or not to make sure, but making, you know, being aware of the fact that we also need to experiment. We need to be thinking about what are all those different sizes and form factors that make sense.
Where do you see 3D coming in on the tablet? When?
Well, 3D has some unique challenges. I mean, HP, we have a huge amount of research in 3D, and in fact, I just flew here from Los Angeles from the National Basketball Association. We have a technology partnership with the NBA on doing large immersive 3D displays. So this display here is a 32 by 9, two 16 by 9 side by side. The display that we do for the NBA is triple wide. So take another 16 by 9, stack it to the right. And the reason we work in these kinds of very, very large, immersive kinds of 3D displays is to make you feel like you're there at the event. 3D is really good in large immersives or on a single user perspective. We, for instance, have an NV17 shipping now that is 3D. The problem is that the glasses are still the constraining factor for 3D. Ultimately, people want to be able to see 3D without needing any kind of special glasses, auto-stereoscopic. Today, the audio-stereoscopic solutions that are offered, and we've seen a number of the TV manufacturers come out with them, are not truly auto-stereoscopic. They basically are fake 3D. what we refer to as kind of a lenticular lens approach. You know, the display has all these little bitty pyramids, splits the image, one goes to the left eye, one goes to the right eye. It's half resolution. You got to find the sweet spot in order to see the 3D. All of those have an impact on the experience. What HP's working on is we have 2 projects in HP Labs that have a clear path to being able to do true auto-stereoscopic, no glasses. I mean true auto-stereoscopic. Once we can get rid of the glasses, we think it's, you know, go gangbusters. And we believe that we can do that. We can scale it down and we can scale it up into these massive, large displays. But there's still a lot of work. I mean, in fact, in one of the demonstrators, it's a little 2-foot by 2-foot display that we have that's audio stereoscopic. Looks really great. Only thing is, you look behind it and it's an entire room of electronics to make that little 2-foot by 2-foot display show in 3D. So there's still a lot of work that has to happen. But I'm a big fan of 3D. I think 3D is where the future is going to go. Think about it from a human scale perspective. Your audio nerve operates at a T1. Your optic nerve operates at a gigabit. You have 2 of them. We're designed to see in 3D. We use it for pattern recognition. You know, you walk into your living room, right? You walk into that same room 1,000 times, you don't think about it. As soon as somebody moves a piece of furniture, you notice it. You may not know exactly what's moved, but you know something's different. That's your pattern recognizer working. That's the benefit of 3D. So we think 3D is going to have a huge impact, but we still have a few years. Even though we're shipping product today, the MV17, great, you know, product, 3D, shipping today with 3D Blu-ray built in. But to really go mass adoption, there's a couple more technical hurdles we really need to get over to really see it go gangbusters.
Your competitor, Acer and Toshiba has laptop, 2 LCD laptop, I mean the LCD, and there is no keyboard function hardware. How do you think about your HP touch smart or the 2 LCD laptop style?
Well, I mean, the dual LCD laptop where you literally have a display and then a virtual keyboard you're talking about, kind of model. We think it's interesting. I mean, we think it's got some potential, still early in the market to see how that gets received. You know, we have the Touch Smart, which has the tilt down, right? So we've gone with that kind of an approach. Part of the challenge with all of these touch technologies is the issue of ergonomics, the impact on your hands from touching. One of the, you know, the ergonomics design team at HP also reports to me, so I have responsibility for all the ergonomic designs, everything from PCs to printers to even our servers. And one of the studies that we've been involved in on ergonomics is if you notice this when you touch on glass, when you touch on a keyboard, as soon as you feel that key release, meaning you get a little bit of resistance pressure, you slow down on pushing, right? You actually start to slow down the process. When you touch on glass and you don't get that feedback, you tend to overpress onto the glass, right? So when we find when people are using touch mechanisms, they over-touching on the glass, causing joint issues and ergonomic issues. It's going to be a big problem when you think about all of this touch mechanism because you don't get that tactile feedback from the key releasing. So in fact, at HP, we're doing some early research and trying to see if there's mechanisms that we can simulate on glass surfaces to make your finger feel like it's touching a key. So you do that slowdown. Because otherwise, we get to a whole set of another generation. You know, think about our kids, where all they do has been touching on glass. And when you touch on glass, you overpress. That pressure you're exerting on the finger is much, much higher than you would ever exert typing on a keyboard. What does that do for the ergonomics? And so part of my ergonomic design team is looking at those things. How do we address the ergonomics issues? But at the same time, touch is here. And as I said before, I don't know if I said it here on stage. Given this so many times, I'm kind of losing when I said something. But you got to remember, HP, we delivered our very first touch PC in 1983 in the form of an HP 150 product. So for us, touch isn't new. We've been doing this for decades. Lots of research in touch mechanisms, touch interfaces. We own pretty much all of the base original touch PC patents from the HP 150. It's all prior art to even thinking about touch being used on phones or PCs, etc. So for us, we're big believers in touch, but we're also wanting to make sure that our products cause no harm in the form to our customers. So that's why we have ergonomics design teams focused on how do we improve the ergonomics. And this over-touching on glass is a concern that's starting to raise in the industry, given now how much of the interfaces are all touch-based.
Exactly.
What about replacing Windows 7 on the touch model?
I'll let you repeat the question so everybody can hear it.
What about replacing Windows 7 on the touch smart with webOS?
To date, we're not announcing a standalone webOS platform. The only thing that we have said, the thing we've said publicly, which was webOS on PCs, is webOS with Windows 7. So, that's what we said.
Any other questions?
Right here, we got one right here in the front.
すみません、日本語でちょっとお願いをしたいんですけど。
I need to get my translator here. What channel? Oh, it's 3. Hold on a second. I'm not on. Okay.
いや、すみません。
Okay.
webOS なんですけども、これは一つの成功の、ゴールをですね、置くとすれば、例えば何年後にどういうふうになっていたら、webOS のビジネスっていうのを成功したというふうに捉えるのか、例えばそれは定量的なものとか定性的なものとかあると思うんですけども、そのあたりが何かあれば教えていただきたいのが一つと、それとですね、あと、さっきタッチパッドをコンシューマーとコマーシャルということで、両方やるというお話あったんですけども、今日のいろいろ今日プレゼンテーションを見ますと、かなり、コンシューマー的なノリが多かったと思うんですけどね。これを例えば出すときに別々の全く違う商品として出すのか、もう例えばブランドもどうするのかっていうことも含めてちょっと教えていただけますでしょうか。
Okay, let me repeat the question. So, the first part of the question was how are we going to quantify success for webOS, quantitatively or qualitatively? And then the second part of the question was about what's our strategy for launching both a consumer and a commercial support, as I said before. So, with regards to the first part of the question, on the quantitative or qualitative, how are we going to measure success when we think about webOS? Well, I'm not going to stand up here and give numbers. You know, as I jokingly say, I'm the technologist, not the economist, right? So there's probably other people within the organization who are better at answering that specific question. But let me reinforce. We spent $1.2 billion US dollars to acquire Palm. You don't spend $1.2 billion to acquire a company to be the number 3, number 4 in the market, right? Our objective is to be the number 1 in this market. You know, no ambiguity, no, you know, we don't settle for second place. I mean, think about it. 5 years ago in the PC business, we were number 3 or number 4 in our product categories and in our segments on a worldwide basis 5 years ago. Today, we're number 1. We're the largest PC manufacturer in the world, we're the largest technology company in the world. We don't settle for being number 2 or number 3. The same applies here. We didn't acquire webOS to be the number 3 or number 4 player. Our focus is how to be number 1. And you can think about that in the form of market share, revenue, whatever numbers you think about it. Our objective is that we want to be number 1. With regards to the consumer and commercial, when these products become available, these products can be both sold by HP's consumer organization, so you would see these in traditional retail or through telecom carriers. At the same time, HP's commercial sales force will be selling these same products into the enterprise directly into the enterprise marketplace to our enterprise customers. So that's the advantage that HP has, given that we have 88,000 retail outlets. Now, let me qualify this. All products are not going to be available in all 88,000 retail outlets day one. There's country rollout strategies, etc. But we have the advantage of having the largest retail footprint of anybody in the industry, and we have the largest enterprise sales force in the industry. And we're going to take advantage of both of those sales mechanisms to get the broadest reach for these products to the customers. But as I said before, there's certain things we need to do in the enterprise products to make sure that the enterprises, quote, will accept or adopt the Palm. Now, as I said, 250 enterprises have already adopted it, given the enhancements that we've made. But we have a roadmap in place that the team is executing against to continue to enhance the enterprise capabilities of webOS, while at the same time maintaining this really great consumer experience that's on the device today. I'm not going to, that's a part. Okay.
ありがとうございます。もう一つお願いします。今、スマートフォンがこれだけ普及して、実際アプリケーションを使う、あるいは楽しいアプリケーション、便利なアプリケーションというのは、スマートフォンの方がたくさんあるというような現象が起きつつあります。で、webOS に我々が、私が期待するのは、Windows の中でもコンシューマーが簡単に webOS 用のアプリケーションを使えるようになってほしいということなんですが、それについてはどのようにお考えでしょう。
So I want to clarify, when you say smartphone, are you talking about specific vendors?
はい、Android ですとか iPhone ですとか、そのあたりを想定しています。
Okay. So the question is around, ease of use and the applications that are available on certain phones and not available, in this case, webOS, and how does that happen, correct? Okay. So, to date, the last published number that we've shared publicly on total number of apps available in the webOS catalog is something in the neighborhood of 7,000 apps. Now, that number was prior to the announcement of the touchpad and prior to the announcement of webOS being available on a large number of platforms. Since then, the number of apps and the number of application developers is growing significantly. But more importantly is that we've developed tools to make it very easy. For instance, if you've developed an application on the Apple iOS to move it across. So for instance, take Angry Birds, right? The #1 downloaded app on the iPhone, okay? The total port time to move it from iOS to webOS was 3 days, versus it took 2 months for that app to become available on Android. So we've developed the tools and the capabilities to allow the application developers to be able to move their apps onto webOS, make that very, very easy to do. So therefore, we reduce that hurdle to have the most popular apps. And you'll see a bunch of new app announcements coming out in the future where the application developers have found webOS to be very, very easy to move to. The other point, though, for us on webOS is we've designed it, and it's the only mobile operating system that is HTML5 round up. Android's not, iOS is not. So therefore, we're the operating system that's best positioned to take advantage of the web standards that are both here today in the direction that we're going. So in reality, to create a webOS app, all you need to know is HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. So we reduce the barrier. I don't need to know Objective-C to write an application. And by the way, Objective-C is a 7-year-old language, not really aligned with where the web is going. So for us, it's about HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript, and to create the preferred platform for those applications going forward that stay aligned with web standards.
それはコンシューマーが、簡単に Windows のブラウザ上で webOS 用のアプリケーションが使えるようになることを意味しますか？
Well, what I'm saying is that once you have an application, that application will run on your phone, your touchpad, and on Windows. So now you can have one application that runs across all of the devices that you have versus a PC, which is over here, and all of your mobile devices over here. For us, webOS on Windows brings all of those together as a single family of devices. So if you add an app here, it automatically loads onto your PC. The email client or your calendar client, or I use a Twitter app on my phone called Bad Kitty. If I want Bad Kitty on my phone and I want Bad Kitty on my PC, it's the same app, and I can use it the exact same way. I change something here, it automatically changes there. So it is about how do I synergize, how do I bring all of these devices and the applications together.
ありがとうございました。
Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How far, probably how soon do you think the webOS will make the progress or the jump to the automotive environment, considering the Android's already seen in some Toyotas already in the US?
Well, I think all of the auto manufacturers are keenly interested in trying to find a platform for their cars. So I think all of the auto manufacturers are doing experiments with anything and everything they can get their hands on. The auto industry has a unique challenge, though. So the problem is that they determine the technology today, they pick a technology for a car that's in production, and that car comes out in 5 years. So the problem is that by the time the car gets delivered 5 years from now, it's 5-year-old technology. This is actually some of the work that my innovation team is doing with the auto industry. I won't name the auto manufacturer because I don't want to embarrass them, but this was an auto manufacturer whose cars sold for, the cheapest car was in the 6 figures, US dollars. It was their cheapest car. And they had a problem. No mobile phone would link to the car using Bluetooth module. And so I happened to know the CTO, he asked for help, they shipped us one of the cars, we started looking into it. They had picked a Bluetooth module that was 5 years old, right? And by the time it had come through, all the handset guys had basically dumped that old original 1.0 standard on Bluetooth, and it didn't even have the right profiles loaded or anything. The problem was it was embedded in the car. It wasn't something you could just rip out and update. So here you're going to spend 6 figures for a car, but you couldn't get your mobile device to synchronize with that car because they picked a technology that was 5 years old. So there's a lot of change in the auto industry right now to try to figure out a better way. How do I create platforms that I can overlay software on top of to where that software stays up to date, but you still have the underlying hardware issues? Or do you do some kind of upgradable hardware components to allow me to keep up with the latest technologies as they progress? So right now, every auto manufacturer around the world is talking to everybody and experimenting with everything to try to figure out what is the right play, for these technologies. And we have, where, like I said, they're talking to everybody and they're experimenting with everything that's out there. But I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting changes over the next couple of years in the auto industry where, the car being just basically a car, to where you think about the car as just being one more device. So I've got my phone, my pad, my laptop, my car. I want all of those to work together as one set of family of devices. And I think that, that the auto industry gets that, and that's where the long-term objective is. Okay.
日本語でお願いします。webOS と、Windows が共存すると先ほどおっしゃいましたが、Windows のユーザーが、webOS を使いたいと思ったら、それは OS を年次的に切り替える必要があるんでしょうか。
So the question is that with webOS running under Windows, is there some kind of a dual boot, or do you got to switch between the images? The answer is no. So it truly co-resides, so it's right there at your desktop. You can run your apps. There's no, I got to hit some key and get into an OS version or switch to this OS version. It literally, think of it as an extension to Windows 7.
Windows 上のアプリケーションとして見えるということですか？
Yeah, I mean, the way that you could look, the question was, is does that mean it looks like an application to Windows? For all intents and purposes, yes. It's a layer, you can think of it as a layer that literally sits right on top. But it also has full access to all the peripheral devices underneath within the Windows operating system. Because you're going to want to get access to things like a camera, a microphone, things that you would normally have on a mobile phone. If you want to do a video call from within webOS on a PC, you got to be able to get to those things. So it's an application layer, but it also goes down to allow all the hooks that webOS normally expects to be within the device. But you can think of it as an application layer.